What's up, guys? Nick G here. Today I'm doing a video on Saturn worship and Saturn symbolism. There's tons of videos out there on it. I've gathered a bunch of pictures here. I'm going to try to blow through them relatively quick because there's a lot to go through, and I still have way more, especially if you include video clips that I have, but I'm not even sure that I can show you. And there's more pictures that I have. I'm just going to have to do separate videos and give it to you a bit at a time. And this is still, with all the things that I'm going to show you today, this is still me doing it a bit at a time, because if I included everything I had in one video, I wouldn't even know how to organize it. This is already going to be pretty sloppy, and the video would be like 7 hours long. So the first thing I'm going to pull up is, okay, first picture. First thing to know, I'm going to cover some ground and I'm going to X out photos as I go along because it's going to get sloppy. So L, the first thing to know, L, that prefix, that suffix, usually always has to do with Saturn. So always pay attention to that L. There's different ways you can interpret religious stories. You can look at them literally, like historically. You can look at them psychologically, metaphorically, archetypally. And believe it or not, you can also look at them scientifically and like through the lens of like physics. That's something I'm just not, and they always meet at the same place, and they always make sense in different ways. It's like different templates for telling the same truth. And this Saturn worship is huge. This is key. This is really, when we talk about the New World Order and things like that, this is really what's underneath all of it. This is the psychological, symbolic representation. This is the symbolic representation of the psychological force or spiritual force behind what the New World Order is. So aside from my video, I highly, highly encourage you guys to look into Saturn symbolism, Saturn worship, because it's been around forever. It's still going on. And it's key. It's really, really important. In my early days of like learning the truth, I'm sorry, I'll get to the pictures in a second, but in my early days this is important. In my early days of learning the truth, I always thought symbols were the most weird or eye-rolling or stupid part of conspiracy theories. And you know, I remember this Bill Cooper quote, and he was talking about how people would write into him, his radio show, The Hour of the Time, and be like, why do you talk about history and these mystery religions and symbology, Bill? Please get into the nitty-gritty. And Bill would respond with, this is the nitty-gritty. This is the truth of the matter, the real focus point, the real consistent across all boards. And he's right. He was totally right, and it's true. So anyways, L, pay attention to that. Father of heaven, Saturn, and his major son Hadad, father of earth, Jupiter, are symbolized both by the bull, and both wear bull horns on their headdresses in Canaanite mythology. So okay, just remember L is Saturn. It's the main thing to take away from that. It's gonna, as I go on, it's gonna be a little bit easier because I'll start to reduce the photo count and I'll be able to move around quicker. But for now, you know, it's gonna be a little hard. So again, this is the, right here is what I want you to pay attention to. L. So to the Canaanites, to the Canaan, the symbol was the bull for L. Just like how I've said again in other videos, Joseph Campbell, for example, has a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Just like there's different mythological and religious heroes basically ultimately describing the same set of characteristics or attributes or psychology or mentality or entity or whatever, however you want to describe it, the same is true for the evil, and it's the same is true for symbols. So there's like There's 1,000 symbols for the same thing. And you wouldn't think, and what it really comes down to is Satanism and Saturnism. Saturn, the worship of Saturn, is the worship of Satan. It's one and the same. Even etymologically, if you look at those words, Saturn, Satan, they almost sound the same. And again, you could look, when I was listing out different ways to interpret religious stories and myths astrologically, that's another big one. And they all meet. They're not at war with each other. The psychological aspects to it, the mythological, astrological, scientific, all the interpretations of these stories and texts, they all meet up in the same place, and they end up all telling you the same things. It's just different ways of understanding them. And as you understand different templates of it, your overall understanding of it will grow. Anyways, to the Canaanites, the symbol of Saturn was the bowl. Okay? So that, remember that. I'm going to show you another picture. And you've probably heard of this one before. Right here, okay. To the Canaanites, right there, to the Canaan. His Saturn symbol was the bull. That's Moloch. You've probably heard of Moloch if you've studied this. This is a god that, or at least a symbol that they would offer children to back in the day. They would offer these children to a flaming bowl. And I have another video called The Young in Heart versus Time. I recommend you check that out, and it provides another way of thinking about these concepts that might make more sense to someone who has never encountered these things before. And so Saturn, and just look for patterns in what I'm showing you. Canaanite god Moloch. This is Saturn. It's the same god as Saturn. They were offering child sacrifices to him. Whatever you think that represents, child sacrifice, it could look at you could think of it as like the shedding of consciousness. You could look at it as a number of things. And another thing for Saturn is the personification of time. So you could think of it as aging. And also, when you think about the accusations of pedophilia, in the upper echelons of society, all the accusations of pedophilia that go on, it starts to make sense, because what I'm going to show you is all the different depictions of the same Saturn god. It's always him messing with a little kid. So if this is if this god is the symbol of the psychology behind the New World Order, and he's always messing with a child, it starts the accusations of pedophilia in the realms of politics, banking, Hollywood, and the totally behind the curtain areas too start to make a lot more sense, because it's even laid out for you in their very own symbols. So remember, Canaanite god Moloch, look into him, important. Understanding what that is. If you understand one of them, you'll understand pretty much all of them. We'll close that. Sorry guys, I'm going to be a little unorganized here. I know this is okay, so the Greek equivalent of Saturn is Kronos, the personification of time. Anytime you see Kronos, he's going to be holding a scythe or a sickle. I know I'm going to be scatterbrained because I'm trying to give you guys a big picture and so much information at once, and there's probably a better, more organized, efficient way I can do it in, but this is the best I can do. So, oh well. This is all I can do, and this is my contribution. The Greek equivalent of Saturn is Kronos. You can look this up. See, look, specific deities known as El. Remember that. Yahweh, the Israelite equivalent of Kronos and Saturn, and Moloch is Yahweh. So Kronos, Saturn, Moloch, Yahweh and El are all the same thing. And I'm gonna show you more and more and more things. Like I said, the hero with 1,000 faces, the symbol with 1,000, the same symbol with 1,000 different faces on it. The same psychology with 1,000 different symbols. And I'll X that out and I'll say what I was going to say. Let me find the next one. You're already seeing a lot of them. Okay. So here we go. You know how I said Moloch was taking up the kid, and there's even more graphic pictures of Kronos. Anytime you see him, he's sucking the life out of a kid or eating a person, and it's never good, man. And again, you can just look at the personification of time. He's aging, and again, please check out my video called "The Young in Heart versus Time." It'll really go in depth about this particular dynamic of the Saturn thing, and it'll explain it in a very down-to-earth way. And I don't want to spend too much time in this video going over what I've already said before in that video. So if you want more on that specifically, check out The Young in Heart versus Time on my channel. Again, Kronos, personification of time, Greek equivalent of Saturn. Important to know. In Greek mythology, Kronos, called Father Time, was the king of the Titans, the father of Zeus. Kronos was a harvest god and carried a sickle, which is a tool used for harvesting grain. The Grim Reaper carrying a scythe is derived from a combination of Kronos and same thing. Kronos and Cronus, same thing. So personification of time, the Grim Reaper, death. These people are worshiping, they're death cults. They're worshiping Satan, literally. The worship of Saturn is like worshiping death. And, you know, people are like, oh, what fantasy world do you live in where this stuff, where you think you're better than death or sin or, you know, entropy, all these things that are going to have an obvious effect on me. And I'm like, my point I like to make is, there's a difference between acknowledging the existence of these things in our realm and the worship of them. That's a totally different thing. When you start putting this guy as your god, it's not good. It never ends good. You're basically worshiping death. And I'm going to tell you something. He's carrying a sickle. You think the hammer and sickle on the Soviet Union flag was just the tools of the average farm worker or whatever? It was a Saturn reference. No question about it. There's no doubt about it. And if you look into Nazism and the Black Sun, I'm going to show you in other pictures later. The sickle, the black sun, the eclipse sun, the dark star, the black star, it's all Saturn. Like how I said, there's a million symbols for the same thing. And, you know, so now we've got Kronos, Moloch, Saturn, time, the sickle, black sun, black star. You know, they're all Saturn. It's just a bunch of different ways. The Grim Reaper, it's a bunch of different ways for saying the same thing over and over and over. And if you think this stuff from the past, it's so not. The Soviet Union flag was an absolute Saturn reference. This is only from the 1970s. The Nazis were in the 1930s, 1940s. They had, I can't show you the Nazi ones. The Black Sun. If you look up, go to Google, type in Nazi Black Sun. For whatever reason, I've tried posting like a black sun on Instagram before, not to like, oh, you know, I think it's cool and I'm subscribing to the ideology this represents. I was showing it to make a point, and Instagram had an algorithm in place to instantly delete that image. Like it was up for not even a second. Like they have some sort of algorithm in place to recognize that image and remove it. So I don't get it why, you know, I don't like the Nazis, but I don't know why it's worse when they use it versus like 100 other groups use it, you know. It's the same thing, so I don't understand why it's held to a different standard than the other groups. Definitely not a Nazi, definitely not a tyrant. But if you notice, all these groups that worship Saturn, they're always tyrants, they're always murderous, they're always setting themselves and their governments up as God, which is basically what Satan does. It's all satanic, man. I know this is crazy to believe, and they don't teach you in this in history class, but I'm telling you, it's real. The more you look into it, the more you'll see. Like I was just saying, boom, right here, black star, astronomy, blah, blah, blah. Saturn referred to as black star in ancient Judaic belief. Saturn is the black star, the black sun, the pentagram. Okay? Go look up different movie scenes with a solar eclipse going on, and pay attention to what's happening in the scenes where the solar eclipse is taking place. It's always going to be something evil. Something evil is being birthed into the world. you know, it's the evil's at its climax during that scene, or the evil's being born in that scene. Something evil is always going on in relationship to a solar eclipse. So I'm telling you, just start paying attention. Go look up movie scenes with solar eclipses going on, and pay attention to the consistencies or the patterns that are taking place when the solar eclipse is happening. So the black sun, the black star, Saturn, Kronos, Death, Grim Reaper, Time, Satan, all these guys are the same thing. They're the same thing. Alright, let's continue. There's another L thing. Remember L, I forgot that one. It's another name for the same guy, Saturn. It all comes down to Saturn. Every tyrant. And again, some people are going to get mad that I'm pointing out, like, there's obviously religious corruption with this stuff. Okay, whoops. Like, for example, was Jesus born on December 25th? There's no evidence for this date, so then who decided that Jesus' birth would be celebrated on that date? The early Christian church did not celebrate Jesus' birth. It wasn't until AD 440 that the church officially proclaimed December 25th as the birth of Christ. This was not based on any religious evidence, but on the pagan feast Saturnalia, was a tradition inherited by the Roman pagans from an earlier Babylonian priesthood. So most Christians know this, and again, I'm not going to go around on Christmas Day and be like, oh, you guys are, spend time with your family, enjoy it, but just know what you're taking part in. This stuff absolutely is still in our modern lives, whether you want to understand it or not. 110,000%. I'm going to show you some other pictures too that are going to really expand on that. And I'm just saying, man, this Saturn shit, this Saturn stuff has its fingers in every religion, in every government. It's all over the place. You can't escape it. I'm not trying to sound doom and gloom, but it's everywhere. And it's definitely, I like Jesus. I'm not trying to trample on his name. I really do like Jesus. I have a great amount of respect for, that story, and, I think I consider whatever that is my savior, but, and I don't consider myself a Christian teacher, so don't accuse me of being a false teacher. I'm just showing you patterns that I find. I like Jesus. I'm not trying to dissuade you from liking him, because he is ultimately the antidote to all this crap that I'm going to be showing you, in the in the psychology behind all this crap. I'm just pointing out to you how this Saturn worship has its fingers in every pie. It's everywhere, and we see that with the December 25th celebration, Christmas celebration of Christ's birthday, which isn't his birthday. And it actually goes back to Saturnalia. Alright. You know what? I'll just do this one now. I was going to save this one for later, but it's important to understand. This is really, really important to understand. And this is the most heavy fact to contend with. And I'm not trying to be depressing today, but this is biblical quotes, phrases of Jesus saying that he is not, aka not, let me emphasize that, not the God of this world. That leaves one other guy. Who is that other guy? Well, it's Saturn. It's Satan. Satan is the God of this world. How conspiracy theorists, I hate to say that because it sounds like a derogatory term to dissuade people from having a sincere investigation of certain ideas, but that's admitted it was an actual CIA tactic to dissuade the public from investigating, to label ideas as, or people that purport this information as, conspiracy theorists, when really they're just people who actually question shit. Anyways, conspiracy theorists will be like, everything's controlled, right? And there's a bunch of different ways you can interpret this stuff, man. I'm just giving you a shotgun blast of information. But they'll be like, everything's controlled, from politics to Hollywood to banking to religion to government to corporations, And I would agree. But what is that? When you accumulate all that into some kind of ultimate, what does that mean? It means Satan is the god of this world, and he is. We're not. This place isn't ran by holy means by any stretch of the imagination. There is some good in people, for sure, but for the most, not even for sure, Satan has the upper hand in what's taking place on this earth. No question about it. I always see stuff like young kids using Satan as like a cute little aesthetic, like for, because they've been trained to think that way and they grew up watching crap and thinking these ideas meant nothing because they know nothing. And they use it as a little aesthetic. They just don't take it seriously. Anyways, let me read. I lost my train of thought. Let me just read this to you. I will no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he has nothing in me. For the ruler of this world is coming, and he has nothing in me. He's talking about Satan, and Satan is nothing like him. And he's calling him the ruler of this world. Isn't that kind of frightening? Do you think that's not... I take that very seriously. I think you should too. Just look at the television, man. Look at the food we're eating. Look at the skies. Look at politics. Look at corporations. It's a joke. It's really bad. And they really expose... They don't hide it through their symbols. We need to become symbol literate. They really do not hide it. They show you right in your face. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, symbols are worth 1,000,000. They really display a grand amount of information in a simple little image. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be cast out. And if I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all my peoples to myself. This he said, signifying by what death he would die. Anyway, the main point, is the ruler of this world will be cast out. Why is he calling Satan the ruler of this world? Because he runs this planet of judgment, because the ruler of this world will be judged. You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Okay, how I was saying, kids will use, I just remembered what I was going to say, how kids will use Satan as like a cute aesthetic, and they'll basically do it to like show that they're being rebellious, or they're going against the grain, right? Oh, I'm edgy, I'm different, I'm going against the groupthink. In reality, Satan is the father of groupthink. Satan is the father of the owner of this world, the ruler of this world. You're actually going against this grain. Why do you think Christ was murdered? He was the one going against the grain on this planet. The things he was saying and the things that he was doing, that's going against the grain. That's being a rebel, not... Wait. Again, man, they're just mini-me Satanists. They've been born into it, so that's all they know, and I don't hold it against them, but they really don't know what they're saying. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That's extremely true. This video is going to be long, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not even through all the pictures. I hope you're finding some kind of value in this, if anyone even happens to see this. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. That's absolutely true. When he speaks lies, he speaks from his own resources, for he is a liar and the father of it. But I tell you the truth. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? And if I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears God's word. Therefore you do not hear, because you are not of God. He's saying you've been born into this satanic world. You've been fed lies for so long, since you've been birthed into this realm, that you can't even recognize truth anymore. In fact, you'll kill him. You'll actually go out of your way to kill a guy who, stands in God's word and tells you the truth. We're going to see days like that, man. We absolutely are. It's always been the case. Go tell the truth about anything in your life, man. You'll find yourself extremely alone. Do you think girls want to talk to me? Because I'm 23, man. I could not trying to, I don't know, be like, oh, woe is me, I'm doing all right. But this is not what exactly gets me to be Mr. Cool Guy talking about this stuff at all. At all. So that's just my fair warning to you. And you know why? because Satan's the father of this world. He's the god of this world. So when you don't act accordingly, like right here, and you he made alive, and who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world. According to the course of this world. If you don't if you don't wear the clothes, stand in the pose, like you're trained to do, you get ostracized, man. It happens. It's the nature of the game. The spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, and again, people think of obedience as a bad thing, and because they think of it as obeying like your government or something. We're talking about a total different. We're talking about swap obedience for like responsibility. Responsibility to God, responsibility to your family and friends, responsibility to do the right thing, responsibility to question things. Our failure to do that basically results in Satan's grip getting tighter and tighter. I don't even know if maybe this realm is just all about that, and I don't know if we can revert it, but I'm trying. Anyways, you guys get the idea. Satan is called the god of this world numerous times for good reason. It's not a joke at all. Here we again, black star, dark star, dark sun, black star. It's all the same thing, all the same different names and words and symbols for the same force, the same entity, the same psychology. I'm just going to start blowing through pictures now. Kronos, here we go. We see Kronos Media. It's like this media group that, not saying they're evil or anything. They just do archives of the past. So you again, they understand the time reference. They're showing old videos from the past, and they have the cube. That's not an accident either, I bet. But I haven't even gotten into the cube yet. So, again, how I said, Kronos, Saturn, Time, Grim Reaper, Dark Star, Black Sun, Pentagram, Sickle, Nazism, Communism. It's all different faces different masks on the same face. Now we'll add cube to that long, ever-growing list. Cube is a big one, and I'll show you more and more of that as we continue. But obviously, we have the Kronos, and the O is a Saturn because they totally get it. It's all the same thing. They're showing you right there in your face. It's not a secret whatsoever at all. Here we go. Black Cube is a private intelligence agency which is based in London, Paris, and Tel Aviv, and is the trading name of BC Strategy Ltd. The company was founded in 2010 by former Israeli intelligence officers, blah, blah, blah. Again, this governmental, intelligence network ran by former Mossad agents is called Black Cube. So, again, another Saturn reference. These people take it seriously. Maybe you don't, but they do. It's not me making this stuff up in my, crazy self in the room. Again, here we go. We see this Cassiel. L. That's another name for Saturn. Cassiel, meaning speed of God, or God is my anger, is an angel appearing in extra-canonical, I'm sorry I butchered that word, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic mystical and magical works, often as one of the 7 archangels, the angel of Saturn. So again, we see the L with the association to Saturn. It's always the same thing. The reason I kept that is because, look, NASA, if you notice how that angel's name, they took off the L and put an I. So this one's called, instead of like Cassini-L, it's called Cassini. And it's a probe or a telescope satellite. The flagship class robot spacecraft comprised both NASA's Cassini probe and ESA's Huygens lander, which landed on Saturn's largest moon, Titan. And again, Titan, the moon, the mythology is being placed in the names of the planets and their moons. It's obvious. And that there's a definite connection between science, religion, astrophysics, myth, astrology, psychology. There's a common thread. The occult is probably what you would call that. And, they don't teach you that in school for good reason, because they want you to be a controlled, docile idiot. They don't want you to be, again, because knowledge and perception go hand in hand. You see what you know. You don't see what you don't know. So that's why they can flash stuff like this in your face and you never pick up on it. Me included. I don't know everything. There's probably plenty that goes over my head. I'm not trying to mock anyone. I'm just telling you facts and how it works. Okay. Cassini was the 4th space probe to visit Saturn and the first to enter its orbit. So again, they named this after an angel that's also associated with Saturn. They know their stuff. It's on purpose. I'm just showing you. I'm not saying that was necessarily evil. I'm just showing you connections. Okay, Chrono Trigger. Here we go. Chrono Time. It's a video game. Again, I'm not saying the game's evil, but we see the connection. Chrono Time, Saturn. It's all the same stuff. This one's crazy. This is probably one of the most public, because we're all used to like thinking of Satan symbolism as being so in your face, of being like a pentagram or like a goat man, you know what I mean? Something that's easily detectable. Again, knowledge and perception go hand in hand. You can't see what you don't know. So when you see shit like this is satanic. They're worshiping Saturn. They're worshiping Kronos. Look, they're all bound. You know where this is? This is in Switzerland. The Goddard. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's an hour long at your own risk. It's pretty, I don't know, heavy if you know what you're looking at. And I don't know exactly what I'm looking at in the whole hour-long video, but I picked up on this. And this is blatant Kronos, Saturn, Satan worship. And it was the Goddard, so the Goddard Tunnel ceremony. Look that up. Watch it and be weirded out. And someone explain to me, give me a logical explanation why they're doing that. And at the end, they're all offering sacrifices or offerings to this giant spinning clock. And I can't show you in the picture because obviously pictures are still. But all the hands on the clock spin and stop at 9:11 all the time. And I don't know the occult significance behind those numbers, but it's just worth pointing out. So if you know something about that, let me know, or make of it whatever you will. I don't know. It's just worth telling you. They're all bowing down to this giant clock. There's the prime minister and presidents of like dozens of European countries at this ceremony. Why are they there watching this go on? It's Saturn worship. And, you know, again, you'd maybe, oh, it's just some people having fun. This was a big deal. There's like heads of state and all kinds of bigwigs there hanging out. Why do they do this stuff? They're showing you over and over again, man, blatantly. Man, I'm getting tired talking about this. There's a lot of videos on this stuff, guys, and maybe people do a better job than me. I'm just showing you what I can. Okay, look, here's a Spaceway, a science fiction book. We got the black cube. So keep in mind the black cube, or just the cube in general, is another symbol for Saturn. And of course, boom, you know, you have the cube. You have the cube on this sci-fi book, and who is that in the background? It's Saturn in the background. Why? Because they're the same thing. They both connect. Anytime you see a cube, pay attention. It's a Saturn reference, usually. I mean, obviously cubes pop up, and it's not. Every time these words and symbols pop up doesn't necessarily mean Satan or Saturn worship is being referenced, but most of the time, that's not a coincidence, man, that the cube and Saturn's right there. You think that's a coincidence? That's on purpose. Come on. It's obvious. That's so obvious. I don't know what this book's about, but... And look, like how I said, there's a scientific / technical... like, through the lens of physics, science, and technology way to interpret religious stories. I don't know. I'm not well-versed enough to give you that information, but it's out there. Look it up. Look into it. And the Saturn facet is one of the best ways to find that information. I primarily focus on the psychological interpretations of it because that's the best way I can explain it. It's the best value I can provide for people. But, again, man, cube, Saturn, right there, obvious. And if you notice, like I said, anyways, the cube looks like a piece of technology. This doesn't look like, I don't know what it is or what role it played in this book, but it looks like a piece of technology. It's got, you know, a thruster and satellite, you know, antennas and shit. Let's get rid of this picture. D-Wave, quantum computing. Why would they make it look like a big black cube? Again, because it's Saturn. This all goes back to Saturn, technology. It grows, we die. It grows, we die. The Matrix. If you want to understand, like, the psychology of Saturn. Like, think about the Matrix, think about the New World Order, think about why someone would want to build the Matrix, what it means, what it represents, its relationship with technology. You know, think about all these things. It's not a coincidence that this D-wave quantum computer, it almost looks like that says demon too to me, but it's absolutely an occult reference. And again, I'm not going to be able to give you 100% of the information. I don't know everything, and this is and I'm covering a lot of ground in this video, and these are very old and very big topics, so don't get mad at me if I don't like serve it for you in the exact way that you want it. I'm just doing the best I can. This is an obvious Saturn reference. It's clearly why they made it a black cube. Here we got the Borg from Star Trek. How long is this video? It's already 35 minutes long. We got the Borg from Star Trek. What did the Borg try to do? They tried to assimilate everyone into one mind. The Matrix. They tried to consolidate power. What is the shape of their ship? A giant technological black cube, right? They try to turn everyone into drones. It's not an accident. This stuff has been in your face forever, man. This is you know, a lot of people don't take the references from movies and video games, and I have a bunch of video clips too to show you from video games and movies and stuff, but pictures are a little bit easier because I think they'll go easier on me on copyright wise. But I'll eventually get into the clips, because I'm showing you a million things and I have a million more. So what I show you is not all there is. Yeah, so they're trying to the Borg. They try to assimilate everyone to having one brain, one mind, a drone, New World Order, totalitarian, one world government, one world religion. It's all the same thing. Cube, Saturn. I don't know why it's Xing out my photos now. Okay, here's another big one. This is a very small picture, but hopefully you can see it. This is the prayer room in the UN, the United Nations, which, again, if you think about what the Matrix is and the Borg is and the New World Order, it's like consolidation of power. It's man believing he's God. It's Satanism. It's Saturnism. And again, they show you right in their symbols, right in your face. It's not hidden. Why is there a big black cube in the UN prayer room or meditation room? Because it's a Saturn reference. Again, it's not just me making this stuff up. Look this stuff up. It's there. It's not me showing you false stuff. I mean, maybe I don't tell you everything there is to it because I don't know it. I'm not hiding anything from you, but there's reasons for why things are the way they are. It's you know, anytime you see something, just ask, why is it that way? Yeah, why is there a black cube in the United Nations prayer room? I don't know. Whoa. We see gateway, like a portal. If you go into, like, as crazy as I'll get, it's like a lot of times you see the black sun and like they're trying to tear the veil or open the veil to another dimension. They're trying to like open the door to heaven or like to the spirit realm. And gateway, you know, and you have the cube next to it. It's been forever. It's always showing us. And, you know, you could argue, again, opening a portal to another dimension sounds insane. But the more you start to, like, notice that, like, occult symbols are everywhere all the time by so many different groups across all kinds of time periods in different geographical locations, you start to take the spiritual side of things a lot more seriously. And I don't know what to make of the whole gateway, doorway to Saturn portal thing, but it has some, at least, psychological merit to it. And it might have actual literal merit to it also. So, I mean, make of that what you will. Just another cube. Here we got a Marvel villain. And my computer's starting to slow down. We got a Marvel villain. my video is going on for a long time now, so I'm going to try to blow through these, and my voice is getting sore. Been talking for like 45 minutes. Got a Marvel villain named Kronos. What's behind him? Saturn. Coincidence? Definitely not. Again, whoops. We got The Cube. Don't look for a reason. Look for a way out. It's a movie. I don't know much about the movie. I just saved it because it was a cube, and they're trapped in this cube. You know, they're trapped by the god of this world. They're trapped in this realm, and that's Saturn. The cube is Saturn. Hellraiser. Sorry about that. My computer is having a hard time with this. So I got like 50 pictures open. Anyways, so we got Hellraiser. I don't know too much about Hellraiser, but when he figured out the puzzle box of this cube, he was like a normal guy. I don't know where this cube came from or how he got it. If you're versed on that horror movie, then you'll get more out of it. But he solved the puzzle or whatever, assembled this cube, again the cube, and it attached, tore off his skin and made him look like this. And Hellraiser sounds like bringing hell on Earth, opening a portal up again. And again, Hell, Saturn, Cube, same thing. Head for Saturn, Ice Cube. It's funny how they got Ice Cube to do this ad, right? Ice Cube on Saturn. Head for Saturn. And the shape of the machine looks like a black cube. You'll see that with a lot of pieces of technology for gaming. Black cubes. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. But yeah, the Sega Saturn. In one of the ads for Sega Saturn, they have like this almost demon looking face fly up to the screen and yell Sega. And it looks like an animated face of the devil. And again, Saturn is the astrological Satan. And it's funny that I just think it was funny that they got Ice Cube to do the ad for the Sega Saturn. Just another pop culture reference to get you thinking about it. Here's again the Borg ship, the cube, the black cube, flying next to Saturn. Of course they made that shot on purpose. Here's another interesting way of thinking about it. Think outside the box. What's it like to think inside the box? There's no hope, there's no possibilities. You're trapped. You don't have any imagination. Things like that. When you think outside the box, when someone tells you to do that, you're thinking creatively, outside what the god of this world is telling you is appropriate to do, outside of how the world tells you is okay to act. You got to act with God's will, the real God. Because people, when they're worshiping Saturn and Satan and shit, they're not going to call him, oh, Satan. They're going to call him God. They're going to call Saturn God. They're not going to call him Satan, but that's who he is. So that, if someone's going to be calling Satan God in their worship, and you have to just recognize how they're using it and all that to be able to discern if it's Satan, if Satan's really the God they're talking about. Because they're not, most of the time they're not going to call him Satan, they're just going to call him God. But yeah, think outside the box, right? Have imagination, think of possibilities. Another way to think of Satan or think of God is something that's outside of your domain of knowledge. That's why, Satanism has a lot to do with pride and the ego, and I know it all, and I'm God, and there's no way, things can't be different than the way they are. People will never change. They're always going to make the same mistakes. Therefore, I have the right to rule them and slaughter them and control them. And they're trapped in the box, man. They don't believe. They have no hope. There is no God. They think they know everything. They're God. So it's, again, even in the little phrases that we have, I thought this was interesting. Oh, wait, well, never mind. It opened the picture that I didn't want to open. But Anyways, I showed you that picture earlier of all those people bowing down in Switzerland at the Goddard Tunnel ceremony. And they're bowing down to Kronos, Time, Grim Reaper, Saturn, Satan, all the same thing. Presidents and prime ministers there. Nobody seems to wonder why. It's just another picture of the celebration. This dude's wearing a clock hat, umbrella hat. So it's just part of the festivities, I guess. They're all having a good time. Here's the Apple store in Manhattan, I think, in New York somewhere. Famous Apple store that's underground, and on the exterior outside leading to the stairway is a glass cube, not a black cube, but still a cube around the bitten apple, which is kind of like, you know, symbolic in and of itself. Why would you have your logo of the bitten apple, like the knowledge, you know, surrounded by a cube? Again, it's just symbol on top of symbol, reference on top of reference, and people think this stuff has no bearing on their lives, man. Big companies still use religious and mythological symbols and names for their stuff all the time. And if you look up Apple's first, I actually have a video on my channel called Apple's First Computer Price. The price they released their first computer under was $666.66. So, again, you know, make of that what you will. Definitely not an accident. It's kind of weird that the company Apple, with the bite taken out of it, with the cube around their store, prices their first computer at $666. Again, it's all about creating a dream world, an illusion world, the Matrix, escapism. This world sucks. I'm God. I'll create a better world. You know, and technology is nice and all, man. I'm using it to talk to you guys, but or whoever decides to see this video, but sorry, I'm just making sure I'm recording. That'd be a real shame if I wasn't. I wouldn't want to do this again. But yeah, it's about escapism, you know, illusions, pain, running away, thinking you're God, thinking you can become God through knowledge, and for the most part, technology just removes ourselves from the present moment. It removes the connections with the people. It's a nice, useful tool, man, but we need to be extremely disciplined with it, and we need to, like, not let it totally, you know, take over who we are. Well, I don't want to evolve so much that, quote-unquote, evolve so much that we stop being human. Not even, like, any technology given to us from the upper echelons is going to be used as a means of control. It's not going to be like, oh, like, they don't care about us. They don't want us to have the latest and greatest technology to benefit us. They want us to have TVs in every room so they can have us not learning shit and have us distracted and watching garbage and ingesting propaganda and being downloaded with crap values and not paying attention to our families and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't see much good come from social media and television and stuff like that. It has potential. We can make it whatever we want to make it, but for the most part, it's just it's garbage. It's not good for you. I can't even stand to be on there anymore. I've gotten off every social media website that exists. I can't do it anymore. I can't exist in that world. It's not for me. Anyways, this video is not about social media. Stay on there if you want. Even though they said even though they said that they program it intentionally to be addictive, to make you be so enthralled in the technology that you can't put it down. They program it. They get like psychologists and like neuroscientists to like understand the function of your brain, and they like program that crap into the machine. Isn't that nefarious? Does nobody care about that? Or it just doesn't matter, man. I'm just gonna brush it off, you know. Whatever. Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I encourage you guys to watch my video, The Young in Heart versus Time. It's really touching on this same theme. And it's just interesting that all the depictions of Kronos you see, aka Saturn, he's eating or, you know, sucking the life out of a child. This tells us to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must become more like children. And it doesn't mean become irresponsible or something like that. It means like maintain your heart through the hardships of existence inside time, through the existence of being immortal with entropy and like friendships dissolving and betrayals and pain and death and all that. Maintain your heart, maintain your enthusiasm, maintain your care, maintain your sense of wonder, your sense of questioning. Kids always ask why. Adults don't do that. Adults think they know everything. A kid likes to learn. I mean, I guess teenagers, I wouldn't call them kids. Same become like children. Don't become like a teenager, because teenagers think they know everything too. But children like to learn. They like to question. They always ask why. And for the most part, the world hasn't defiled them enough to make them become nihilistic and pessimistic and narcissistic and whatever, everything else in that same theme. Just something I continued to keep on the opposite end of things. Here's another one with the cube. Psychology Day, escaping depression. This girl is trapped in a cube. You know, it's closing in on her. She's surrounded by these walls, can't figure out a way out, and the cube is depression. The cube is like the fact that you have to exist in this. The cube is this reality. It's time and space. The circle is space. The cube is, or the circle is time, and the cube is space, and they're always together. And it's like escaping depression. It's like the fact that you have to exist in this reality. And like I said, you know, you're going to die. Your pets are going to die. Time is going to eat away at everything you love. Time is going to destroy everything you love in this third dimensional level, in this reality. Alright? And that's depressing. But there's obviously more to us than our physical bodies, I think. And if you look at the occult significance in all these powerful people across the world, across time periods, all over the place, you'll probably start to take... At first, I went from thinking there was no merit to like religious and mythological stories whatsoever at all. I thought it was just for idiots. And then I kind of evolved into like, okay, you know, I saw it in like TVs and cartoons and movies and stuff. I was like, okay, I kind of get it, you know. And I developed like a psychological understanding of it. Now I'm starting to really develop my spiritual understanding of it. So I went from like, you know, an intellectual about it to like really starting to like see and understand and feel the magnitude of this stuff. And, you know, again, she's trapped in the cube. She's trapped in this world, and it's depressing. And it really is. Everyone's depressed nowadays. Here's a movie called Kronos. Planet robber tramples the Earth. Another way, you know, people show Saturn. If you've ever seen that Rick and Morty thing, where Rick develops like a tiny world to like power his car or whatever, he flies around in a cube and he gives the people electricity, electricity, and he siphons off their power for his own needs. And they're flying around in a cube, and he disguises himself as an alien. They're telling you stuff right in cartoons, man. It's all over the place. I just want you guys to be able to... the biggest gift I can give you by showing you all these is just hoping that you can start to see on your own without me having to show you. And I don't understand everything. I'm sure plenty of you know and see more than I do, but planet robber tramples the Earth. I don't know much about this movie, but you know, this cube alien ship siphons off energy from the humans and mind controls them and stuff. Kronos, again, and the shape of the ship's a big black cube, calling him the planet robber. Obvious Saturn reference, yet again. No secret to it. Here's another one from a movie. This is from The Incredibles. The superhero Disney movie. I think it's Disney, from a long time ago. Not that long ago, like early 2000s. Saturn is Kronos, right? Kronos is time. Kronos is entropy. It deteriorates care, deteriorates enthusiasm, it deteriorates hope, a lot of things like that. A lot of the things that you consider the hero to have, right? Like an intact heart. The good hero, not the counterfeit hero. Operation Kronos was the plan by the villain in The Incredibles to kill all heroes. To kill all heroes. And he named it Operation Kronos. This stuff's in your face. Operation Kronos is the plan to kill all heroes. It makes perfect sense to me, man. It makes 100% sense to me. And it's been in my face since I was a kid and I could never see it. Again, this was a big one to me. The Operation Kronos was the plan to kill all heroes. Because the heroes are the ones that short-circuit the programming and the expectations of this system. Because, again, Satan is the god of this world. Jesus did not walk according to the course of this world. And Jesus is at least a representation of the hero. Maybe he was an actual, real son of God that lived on earth. And I hope he was. And I hope he's coming back, because that means we're not on our own. But, you know, I'll leave that up to you, man. I'm not saying anything about that one way or the other. But, yeah, Kronos, plan to kill all heroes. Obvious Saturn reference. Satan reference. Here's black cubes in Manhattan and Australia and Denmark and Santa Ana, like all over the world. Just weird black architecture. You know, one of their favorite things to do, man, is build symbology right into the architecture. You could think of that as geomancy, which is like earth magic. And that sounds kind of like, you know, nerdy or dumb when you put it like that. But it's really, there's occult knowledge in the very way, spiritual knowledge in the very way things are built. Like masonry, free masonry, right? Like masonry is like bricklaying. It's like building a building. It's like building your... I'm not going to really... Masons might worship Saturn. I don't know. I don't know enough about masonry to tell you that. I'm just showing you again a parallel between architecture and psychological / occult / spiritual knowledge. And it's all over the place in churches, synagogue, mosques, corporations, corporate logos, government buildings. You know, they build this stuff into the buildings, and it's kind of weird, man. There's just random black cubes all around the earth. Nobody, why is that there? You know, just take a picture in front of it. Don't question it. Don't know why I'm saving this one for so far. This is probably one of the first ones I should have showed you, but I just had so many pictures it was hard. This is a look it up yourself. This is an official NASA picture of the permanent hexagon storm on Saturn. A hexagon is a 2D cube. I think it's called spatial or spatial vision, to be able to turn when you're looking at a 2D thing and being able to turn it into a 4D object. Or, my bad, a 2D image and looking at it and viewing it as a 3D image. A hexagon is a cube. You guys will be able to do it with your eyes. How I usually do it is I kind of pick a corner and follow it to the center, and like you can start to see the cube. That's another important thing to notice. I don't have the picture of it, but there's a architectural depiction of Tubal-Cain, which is a descendant of Cain, from Cain and Abel. And Cain's ultimately, again, the Saturn psychology, the murderer, the liar, the full of resentment, the consumed by pain one of the brothers, you know, fell out of God's favor, things like that. He's the satanic one. Cain's the satanic one. And there's a depiction of his descendant, Tubal-Cain, one of the first ironsmiths, and he's always in a hexagon, which is a 2D cube. And that's on purpose, because it all goes back to Saturn worship, Satan worship. Cain is all the same guy, man. Cain isn't Satan, but Cain and Nimrod embody the psychology of Saturn or Satan. I don't know if Satan's a physical thing. I always tend to look at it like Satan's a force or a mentality or a psychology or an entity, and and people can be possessed by it and taken over by it and embody it, just like how they can carry out God's will, like the good God, not the Saturn God, but the same way you can, a person can be an instrument of God. This is the same. The reverse is true also. Again, just showing you the cube, the Saturn thing, this permanent storm on the North Pole of Saturn, hexagon cube. Important to know. How I showed you with the December 25th, Saturnalia, Jesus Christ's birthday, Saturn infiltration of Christianity. It's obviously the same with the Jews. They wear this black cube on their forehead. I think it's called like a Teflon or something like that. I could be wrong. I'm not well versed in it. Obviously, the Star of David is a hexagram, a hexagon. A hexagon is a 2D version of a three-dimensional cube. The seal of, or the Star of David is also the seal of Solomon. And again, a lot of this has to do with like building yourself up as God. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to like better yourself, which is, again, it kind of relates to Freemasonry the same way, like building yourself, like building like Freemason, Mason. A Mason is someone who builds. You're building yourself, like the Temple of Solomon, you're building yourself up, but by no means is man ever God. Man has to be held accountable in relationship to something. He has to be beneath a responsibility. You can't become the standard. The standard has to be above you. I've given this analogy a million times. Imagine like what a good friend is, or what a good lover is. There's a responsibility that goes with that you have to be held accountable to. Like if you had a friend and he lied and stole and fought you and betrayed you, you'd call him a bad friend. Why? Because he violated a standard, an expectation, an ideal, God, if you will. I'm not saying that is God, but it's along the same path. I'm just showing you how it functions again, psychologically, and they violate that standard, so you call them a liar, because they're falling away from that ideal, that standard, and they're holding themselves. They think they can do whatever they want and still claim that they're your friend. That's a hard lesson I had to learn a few years ago, where I could say I loved this girl, right? I could make claims about loving this woman, but I would sit around and let her smoke heroin. Well, guess what? If I'm being held to God's standard, that would mean I'm a liar. You can't be a liar if everything's relative, if there's no such thing as truth. If I'm truth, then you can't be a liar, and I can't be held accountable, and I can't be considered irresponsible, or I can't do anything wrong because I'm God. But guess what, man? If you love someone, you don't watch them poison themselves and just let it go on. I mean, maybe I don't initiate force against them, fine. But I would at least, you don't let that go unchallenged. Let's just put it that way. If you love someone. If you don't, then just admit that you don't love them and do whatever you want. Anyways, Saturn worship is prevalent in all major religions, and definitely with the Jewish people. Nothing anti-Semitic about it. They have the cube. The Star of David is the seal of Solomon, which is similar to the seal of Saturn, which is also a 2D dimensional image of a 3D cube. So there you go. And they wear the cube on their head. I don't know a lot about that tradition to really tell you much about it. I just know they're wearing a black cube on their head. Here's one. Again, that relates back to Jewish tradition with the Kabbalah, which is basically esoteric, occultish Judaism, and it's all over the place. Check out my Ariana Grande video where she has the Kabbalic tree of life in her music video. These people, celebrities, bankers, politicians, corporation CEOs, all these people, man, they take the occult seriously. They just don't tell you about it in a direct way, because they want to hold sway over you. They tell you it. They don't really give you a fair chance. I mean, we have access to information, and a lot of our failure to get this stuff is our fault. I'll definitely concede that it really is our own fault, because we just don't care. We're apathetic, we're ignorant, we're irresponsible, we're lazy. I get it. But a lot of it is because of their sabotage and their lies and their deceit and their, just poisoning of our brains since we've been born. Anyways, Kabbalah. The value 50 is Kabbalistic code. Again, there's a parallel between religious texts and technology and science. And code, you think of like computer programming code. I'm not too well versed to give you a real detailed layout of a scientific explanation of religious stories, but anyways, the value 50 is Kabbalistic code for Sephra dimension of Binah, also blah blah blah, also known as the 50 gates of Binah. Binah is what we consider as heaven to our earth, and the 6 dimensions between the corresponding to the 6 words of the Shema is the ladder we claim to reach it. The technology embedded in these 6 words. So again, you got the 666, Saturn, Satan, who is designed to evaluate our prayers and consciousness to the upper Sephiroth dimensions to Binah. So again, they're basically saying their prayers and their consciousness to the upper Sephiroth dimensions to Binah. I'm going to show you who. Guess who Binah is? Guess what Binah is? I bet you can take a wild guess. Oh wait, Binah is Saturn. Again, I should have included that picture of all pictures, but the hammer and sickle, like I said, the Soviet Union, communism, Nazism, every tyrant ever, every murdering death cult, Charles Manson, all of them, man. They use Saturn symbols. They embody Saturn psychology. Binah is Saturn, and Saturn is associated with the color black. I've talked about this a million times. It's why, Darth Vader was in black, and the Nazis wore black, and all it. There's symbolic value to colors, to numbers, to words, to symbols, to everything. It all goes back to the occult, and the Kabbalists literally, I just showed you, said they're sending their prayers up to Binah. Binah is Saturn. Look at the symbol of Saturn, and it looks a lot like the hammer and sickle. And the Soviets believed in like absolute authority of the government and the inability of the average man to determine his own destiny, because it's fundamentally anti-human. This Satan shit. This is why I'm so confused by people like really reveling in this stuff. All the groups that have ever worshipped Saturn and Satan, they end up murdering millions of people. Sorry, my throat was really dry. They end up murdering millions of people. They hate, and listen to like, go watch The Matrix and listen to like how Agent Smith feels about humanity. Just listen to like, if you don't like to study like religions and stuff, study movies and cartoons and shit that you like. It's a lot more fun, and you'll get a lot of the same information and same symbols in your face. So study what the villains say and how they feel about humanity, and they have some weight to their argument. It's worth taking in, but at the end of the day, man, I'm not going to be a worshiper of that. I'm not going to be a murderer. I'm not going to be a death lover. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, there's a difference between contending with these things as a fact of our reality and deifying them. There's a huge difference. I'm not going to cross that line. The communists, the Soviets, the Phoenicians, the Nazis, all these groups that wanted to control and kill and create the best men and the New World Order, all that, they're all Saturn worshippers, every single one of them. Look at that symbol. Tell me that doesn't look like the hammer and sickle on the flag. That's the symbol of Saturn. That's the planetary symbol of Saturn. The color black. The Kabbalists are saying they're sending their prayers up to Binah. Again, there's always a God higher. I'm not trying to tell you, oh, God is really Satan and there is no real God. There's always really the real God higher above. It's just Saturn, Satan's running the show down here, unfortunately. And it's a fact. Love your families, man. Stop buying into the BS. Okay, here's how I was talking about symbols being built into architecture. Geomancy, occult references in actual structures themselves. Here's the EU building, right? Another global governance organization. the European Union. It sounds all flowery and nice because they use love and tolerance as a mask for control, you know, and getting their foot in the door. How Satan pretends to care about you. Oh yeah, you know, like how accommodating he is. Oh, it's okay. You know, he cares. He's just trying to get his foot in the door, man, so he can own you and consume you. Does this look like anything to you guys? Oh, the tower that I already gave it away. The EU building, the European Union, global governance, New World Order, the Borg, Saturn, Satan, it's all the same thing. That building looks exactly like this building. To me, I don't know why they, you know, had it look like a half-built tower as the EU building. It's definitely a Tower of Babel reference. There's a bunch of ways that I thought about the Tower of Babel in the past, like man, you know, again, like man trying to think he's God, building a tower up to heaven to overthrow God. And now, and that's still valid. That's still a valid way to think about it. It still applies. Nimrod, again, is an extension of the satanic Saturn Cain ideology, except Nimrod's portrayed as a little more like competent and ultimate and like a king. You know, he's buff, he's cool, people like him, he's a king, but he's still wrong. You know, Cain is sort of shown, God tells him his sacrifices are inadequate, and you kind of get the impression that Cain kind of failed and he was just resentful because he failed, and that's why he's wrong. But there's a sort of a progression in the story and in the psychology from Cain to Nimrod, because they're ultimately the same character. If you watch movies and TV shows and all that and blah blah blah, the psychology of the villain, for the most part, is consistent across multiple stories. And this is just an extension of the Cain way of thinking with Nimrod. And it's interesting because he's wrong for a different he accomplished a lot. Nimrod's a well put together, competent guy, a liked guy, he's a king. But he's wrong, he's still wrong. He's wrong for a different reason. Anyways, how I said it's man trying to build a tower to overthrow God and all that. Bab-El, right? The Tower of Bab-El, E-L. That's another way of thinking. So this could be the doorway, the tower to Saturn. How I said Saturn's the god of this world. They could have, and we're talking about gateway and portals and CERN and all that, and opening portals to different dimensions. This could be, again, like instead of them trying to overthrow God, which they're still trying to do, this could be a doorway to Saturn. They're like a portal, like a building to open some kind of gate. And they failed, obviously. Every time it fails. Anyways, to me, there's an obvious connection between the EU building, the EU building's architecture, and the Tower of Babel. So, and psychologically, politically, metaphorically, architecturally, you know, in a million different ways, and it all means the same thing, man. It's all satanic, it's all Saturnian, and it's worth knowing about. Here's an interesting one from the past. Avril Lavigne. It's in your celebrities are a part of it, your musicians are part of it. Love your family and your friends, they care about you. Celebrities and politicians do not. Okay? Get it through your head. Stop believing in fake heroes. Look at her, how we said black star, black sun, eclipse sun, Saturn, Satan, it's all a symbol for the same thing. I know I'm being redundant at this point. This video is an hour and 13 minutes long, but I've been getting through a lot of stuff. Avril Lavigne, be your own black star perfume, Saturn perfume, right? It's not an accident, it's called Black Star. Are you serious? And look how it says under there, the slogan for it is, be your own star. Be your own star for the Black Star perfume. You ever see slogans associated with pentagrams? I'll see like a pentagram and a slogan underneath it, and it says, believe in yourself, right? And that sounds all nice and flowery, like, oh, believe in yourself. What it really means is believe that you are God. And again, that's kind of what this be your own star is. Believe in yourself. Be your own star. Believe that you're God. And you're not. Sorry to tell you. Man is not God. And man thinking he's God has been... and that he can do whatever he wants and doesn't, and he can dehumanize others, is one of the is pretty much the cause of every problem ever. Again, like I pointed out, you have to be held accountable in relationship to something above you. If there's nothing above you, if you're God, then you can't be held accountable to anything. So someone who believes they're God will never repent, because in order to repent, you have to acknowledge that there's a way you should have acted. And if there's a way you should have acted, that means you're not God. That means there's a responsibility above you. That means there's something that you didn't know. You'd have to admit one of those things. And a Satanist will never repent, aka that's just a religious word for saying I was wrong or sorry. They'll never do that. They'll never do that. We've all heard of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. It's kind of like a paradox, right? Another way of thinking about this is like when when the incorruptible becomes corrupted, aka like Jesus, if he would have accepted the offer of Satan to have the world, right? And that's another thing that proves Satan is the god of this world. He's offering Jesus the world like it's his to give, because it is. Satan runs this planet. I don't know how you want to interpret that, but just think about it. Think about the meaning of the story, at least, if it wasn't like a real historical event, blah, blah, blah. Put your condescending attitude to the side for a second and think about what I'm telling you. And have been showing you through 50 plus pictures here. And I have 100 more, Satan was offering Jesus the world because it was his to give. I lost track of what I was saying. Anyways, Avril Lavigne, be your own star, believe in yourself. Man's not God, and your celebrities in Hollywood and everything is compromised, and they put occult symbols in your face and slogans. Again, man, they really try to disguise this Satanism stuff as like I said, believe in yourself. Ooh, isn't that sound nice? Yeah. Whatever, man. Everyone here. Okay, here's another. This one's kind of nerdy. I like to watch anime, right? This is from a show called Naruto Shippuden. This is one of the main villains of the show. The psychology that Madara had and what he believed about people and pain in the world and not being able to understand each other. Look at the weapon he's holding. He's holding the scythe like the Grim Reaper. He embodied the Saturn, Satan ideology, and he wielded a scythe as a weapon. And his ultimate goal was to create a dream world, the Matrix, an illusion world. And he got powerful by, losing people, by losing his brother, by severing bonds. He tried to kill his best friend Hashirama, right? Again, it's even in anime, man. There's a reason they gave him the scythe. There's a reason that he tried to create a dream world called the Infinite Tsukiyomi. It's just it's the Naruto version of the Matrix. It's the Naruto version of the dream world. He ultimately repented in the end, so I'm not saying he is Satan, because he was a good guy that got corrupted by pain, and I get it. But he embodied the satanic ideology, and when he they even had the divine tree, like the Tower of Babel in that show. He absorbed it. He became the Sage of Six Paths, and he had horns on his head. People are missing these religious references in their stories, in their movies, in their shows, and then they turn around when someone talks to them about religions and myths, and they're like, "Oh, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. That's boring. It doesn't mean anything." Yet they'll turn around and watch movies and shows and read books that are basically drawing from that ancient story that's been around since forever. So if you like stories like this, You can't really turn around and say the original story is dumb. So I don't understand those people. They really only say that because they don't see the connection. That's why they say that, and I understand that. But just pointing that out. All right, man. I gotta end this video soon. I got only 4 pictures left. I'm running out of breath here. This is tiring. Got an hour and 20 minutes on this video. Mecca again. Say Saturn infiltration or influence in every major religion. I showed it with the Christians. I showed it with the Jews. Now it's time to show it with the Muslims. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you're a Jew, or you're a bad person if you're a Christian, or you're a bad person. I'm just showing you symbols, man. Make it like the same way politics is controlled, the same way media and Hollywood and celebrity and corporations and science and everything else has its corruption. So does religion. Shouldn't come as a shock. And what do? They go around this giant black cube, which is weird. Like, they're gonna ask why. And they circle around it. I believe they either circle around it in a clockwise motion, in like Chronos time, like a clock, or they circle around it in a counterclockwise motion, like the rings of Saturn, because Saturn's rings go around the planet itself in a counterclockwise motion. So either way, it's a Saturn reference or a time reference. They're either going around it clockwise like a clock, or they're going around it counterclockwise like the rings of Saturn do. So there's that. Oh shit. This might not mean anything. Here's just something I thought of. I was thinking about cube symbolism in relationship to Saturn, and then you think of like, the cube, the cubicle, the day-to-day grind that people feeling trapped, the soul-crushing environment of having to earn a living and stuff. The cubicle. I just think it all kind of ties together, whether it's on purpose or it's just kind of like serendipity or organic connections between things. I'm not saying every time there's a connection between something, it means it was planned out like a conspiracy. It might just be like, oh, things connect that way because that's how the universe works, like as above, so below. And sometimes it is a conspiracy. Sometimes it was planned out that way. I just thought it was interesting, the cubicle, the hard 9-to-5 work environment. And I also like this one because inside each little cube, there's the heart, right? Just showing you like a glimmer, a slim silver lining, glimmer of meaning and hope, and something that makes this cube tolerable. Which is really, the hero stands up for what that is at all costs. He values the bonds and the love he shares with his friends and family above all else. And that's why I find it really annoying when you try to tell people about the value of the hero and the Messiah and Jesus. They scoff and roll their eyes and all that. It's like, dude, that guy's the symbolic representation of like every friendship and relationship you have, having it mean something and be of any value. If that symbol is dumb and means nothing and you laugh at it, like, why do you even have friends? Why do you even pretend to like anyone? It's the only thing that sticks up for the value of those things. The other guy likes to tear them down. So give some respect to the hero, to Luke, the guy that cares about people. And I just think it's interesting, this picture of the cubicles with the cube, obviously, and then the heart. And again, I'm not saying, something to keep in mind, man, the satanic agenda will use, like, the heart, will use love as, like, a disguise, as a means to an end to, like, get their foot in the door to control. So when they talk about love and tolerance, you still got to be on your toes, right? You can't just like, oh, love, in some superficial, dumb, mediocre understanding of it. Like, you got to be able to identify when it's real and when it's being used as a tool against you, because obviously it's going to be used as a tool against you. These hearts, I'm talking about the real love, alright? 2 pictures left. Kind of don't have a lot to say. Again, Catholicism, Saturn infiltration of all religions. Why do you think? I talked about the color black being associated with Saturn. Judges, police, priests, rabbis, they're all wearing black. Why are they all wearing black? Because they're all serving Saturn for the most part. And I'm not saying Jesus isn't... I'm not saying, like... I don't know, man. There's just a distinction between Jesus and organized religion to be made. And here we got the Pope, you know, Mr. Pope, smirking at Christ on a hammer and sickle, which is really a Saturn symbol. We like to think it's a communist symbol. It's really a Saturn symbol. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of blasphemous. You shouldn't see Christ on a hammer and sickle or a Saturn symbol. They're not the same. Jesus is the antithesis to Saturn. Some people are going to try to tell you Jesus is Lucifer. I don't believe that. And I'm pointing out to you the Saturn worship in major religions, and I still don't subscribe to the belief that Jesus is Lucifer. Because like I said, check out my Halo 3 Christ symbolism video, because if everything's just Satan and there's no real God, real good, real Savior, then we're screwed. Like we gain no value or utility from abandoning the symbolical or archetypical good side of things, archetypal side of things. Anyways, yeah, Pope laughing at the communist hammer and sickle, whatever. Lastly, again, just Kronos. See, there's how Binah had that symbol next to it. Looks a lot like the hammer and sickle. He has a scythe or a sickle. He's holding a baby. Sorry about that. But, you know, he's always has a kid. He's always sucking the life from a kid. It's always the sickle. Just another Saturn reference yet again. Kronos, Saturn, Satan, cube, black star, dark sun, or dark star, black sun, solar eclipse, Nazism, communism, Saturnism, Satanism, pentagram, all these things. They all mean the same thing. Alright guys, I am exhausted after this video. Most people are probably not going to watch this, but I just had to do it one time. I'll come back with more Saturn stuff because this is not even all that I have. And this was a lot to show you at once. And I have way more. I have a lot more to show you. Anyways, I'm going to end it with that. Thank you guys for watching. If you managed to sit through all this, have a good day. God bless you.